I've done it. I've lied to you again. I said I wouldn't be doing any more pumpkin recipes, and here we are. Homemade pumpkin pie. But what would a Thanksgiving dinner table be without it? You gotta do it. Pumpkin pie has been around forever, and honestly, I can't even remember a Thanksgiving where we did not have it. Loaded up with whipped cream, maybe more whipped cream than pie, but always delicious. And believe it or not, it is so easy to make homemade from scratch. It all starts though with that homemade pie crust. You've seen me do it 1,000 times, but we're gonna do it one more time. Sound good? Let's bake. We are going to start by adding some flour right to a food processor. You could also cut the butter into the flour using a pastry knife. We're going to add some cold unsalted butter right to that food processor. And of course, you know what makes the best pie crust? Rendered bacon fat. If you can't get a hold of this, just double the amount of unsalted butter. The next thing we want to do is season it up with a little bit of salt and then add the top on and pulse everything together about 25 to 30 times or until the butter is about the size of rice. We need to bring the dough together, so what we're going to do is slowly drizzle in some cold water. This will help make it like a meal. The best way to know when it's finished is take a little piece out, press it together. If it sticks together and stays firm, you know we're good to go. Transfer the dough over to a clean surface. Now we're not going to knead this dough, but what we want to do is bring it together, squeeze it together, and form a round disc. And the reason it is round is so that when we roll it out, it stays in that nice circular shape. Once it is in that disc form, we're going to sprinkle heavily the top and the bottom with some all-purpose flour, and then grab a rolling pin. I prefer a French rolling pin. That way I can feel if there's any bumps in the road as I roll it out. The goal is to get it about an 8-inch thick when it is completely rolled out. And to help with sticking in the pie pan, I'm going to add a little 9-inch parchment paper round. I'm not sure if you've ever had issues with your pie sticking to the bottom of your pan or dish. But if you do, I'm going to show you a really quick way to make sure that never happens. And it begins with arts and crafts time. Here we go. Okay, put that pie pan right over a sheet of parchment paper, grab a pen or a pencil, and simply draw around the outside. I literally feel like I'm back in elementary art class. Then, of course, just cut it out. Or you can actually order these already pre-cut on Amazon or from your favorite bake shop. Boom, parchment round, good to go. Go back over to your dough. Here's a really easy way to transport it. Just roll it up completely around the pin like this. Easy peasy. Go back over to that pie pan, unroll it over the top. Now what we want to do is sort of push it down around the inside edges just to make sure it's completely touching the bottom and the sides of that pie pan. And now to cut off some excess dough, you want to leave about 1 inch from the edge of the pie pan. Right there in the middle will be good. Use a paring knife, a tourne knife, whatever you have. Just cut around. It does not have to be perfect. Once it is cut off, fold in that excess piece. This is going to be our nice outside crust. Once it is completely folded in, you can press with a fork, or what I like to do is make little flutes. I know I've used that pre-fluted pan all the time. Now I'm going to show you how to do it by hand. Use your thumb and your pointer finger on one hand and your pointer finger on the other. Just make little flutes all the way around. Very, very simple, but it absolutely looks beautiful. We are going to transport this pie crust right to a freezer, and we're going to let it rest. I actually think it's a great idea to put the pie crust in the freezer anyway, because it allows the fat to harden up so your pie crust does not fall when baking. Now, for the folks out there who have to have a super firm hard crust, can't have any sort of softness at all to it, what you want to do is blind bake it, or maybe you've heard it called par baking. It's very easy to do. It takes 10 minutes. Here's how you do it. Let's take our pie, put it right on a cookie sheet tray lined with parchment paper. We are going to place another sheet of parchment paper right in the center. And then I've got some dry beans. It takes about 1 pound to 1.5 pounds That's what you'll need to blind bake, and honestly, you can reuse these beans over and over. Spread them around all over the bottom. We're going to the oven on 400 degrees Fahrenheit. We want it to par bake for 10 minutes. This is actually great timing because now we can just simply make our pumpkin pie filling in the meantime. I've got a large bowl with 3 large eggs. We are going to add in our pumpkin puree. I'm using canned, but if you have access to fresh, please use it. And for some sweetness, I've got some packed light brown sugar, followed up with some regular granulated sugar. Then we need to add a few more things, beginning with some sea salt, a little bit of cornstarch, which is going to help the pumpkin pie filling stabilize. I'm going to add in a touch of vanilla. Then last but not least, I've got some pumpkin pie spice blend. You can check out my pumpkin bar video to see how I did it, or you can buy the pre-made stuff from the grocery store. Now grab a whisk and completely mix all of this together until it is smooth and combined. And once it is mixed in, we're next going to add in some evaporated milk. If you don't have access to this, you can actually substitute for heavy whipping cream. Again, grab that whisk, mix it together until it is combined and smooth, and then we're going to set it to the side. Now let's go have a look at our par-baked pie crust. Looks fantastic. What you want to do now is just grab that parchment paper by all the ends, pull it out. Super easy. Set it to the side for another use. Grab that pumpkin pie filling, and of course, add it to that pie shell. Use a rubber spatula to get all that goodness in there. Very carefully and gently move that pie pan because we're going back to the oven on 400 degrees. What we're going to do is cook it first for 15 minutes, continue to brown that crust up, and then come back. We're going to turn the heat down to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're going to cook it for 50 to 65 minutes or until the center is just about firm. Also great time because what would pumpkin pie be without whipped cream? So add some heavy whipping cream to a stand mixer, or you can whisk this by hand if you'd like. We're going to add in a little bit of sugar, vanilla extract, and then whenever you do this in a stand mixer, start on low speed for maybe the first minute or two until things are combined, or else it's going to shoot out everywhere. Once it starts to thicken, just simply come back, crank the speed to high. It will thicken up, honestly, within another 2 to 3 minutes, just like this. At this point, you can either transfer it to a piping bag if you want to pipe it on, or you can use a spoon. So put it in a container. Regardless of what you do, it needs to be in the refrigerator until it's ready to use. Let's take a look at our pumpkin pie. It looks fantastic. Even if it's bowed on the outside, it will absolutely flatten out. Give it a little hit. See how that's a very gentle jiggle and slightly firm in the center? Absolutely perfect. Transfer it now to a rack. It needs to cool to room temperature, which is going to take about 2 hours or so. A couple of really quick things. Make sure that you keep that pie in the middle rack of your oven, but if you start to see it browning up way too much, especially on the crust, put a little foil around that outside edge, or maybe even lay it over top. Make sure it doesn't touch the filling or it's going to stick. It's not going to look pretty when it's out. The other thing, to speed up the cooling process, after maybe 30 minutes of it sitting at room temperature, throw it in the refrigerator. It'll probably cool down in about an hour, as opposed to waiting it to cool to room temperature while on this rack. And again, my friends, all my homies out there, it's all about these fundamental techniques. Homemade pie crust, homemade filling, so delicious. It is going to make your holidays that much more amazing. The food is going to be incredible. You're practicing these things. You're getting it. The homemade food from scratch, always delicious. Here's how we plate it up. No matter what pie I'm slicing, I always like to use a serrated knife. It's just so gentle on the filling and, of course, the crust. Take a nice big fat slice out of there. It looks absolutely fantastic. You see that crust is cooked. Perfect. And then pipe on as much heavy whipping cream as you want. An amazing, homemade, delicious pumpkin pie. If you love this recipe and learned something, please, please, please like and share it. And definitely smash that subscribe button. Would love a sub from you guys. And of course, check out this video right here. This one right here. I made it just for you. You'll love it. I'll see you on there. Let's get in this.